So what you need to do is get off your phones and get out there. And I say that knowing
Seriously.
full well that I use the dating app and found a date. So
Also, I had been on a handful of dates from the dating apps, and I think I had the experiences that I felt I probably needed to have at that time. And it definitely taught me a lot more about how people, especially the communication levels, my God, please, please work on, and this is women and men. Like, I'm not saying this is a thing against men only, but if you want to do something or say something or ask something, open your mouth and say the words, because I don't know your personality when I'm just having conversation with you initially. I don't know your background and the things that you've been through that make your personality what it is. So, especially when it comes to like first getting to know a person in general, like open your mouth, say what you're actually thinking. Grant I am an actor and I'm a writer and I'm a hopeless romantic. And as a woman, I fall under the category occasionally of the women who want a man to read their mind. But I know like it doesn't
well,
work that way.
it falls under the courage category. Like
Yeah.
say what you mean what you say, and walk the walk, talk the talk.
Yeah.
Um,
And
now
don't
you
ghost.
now
Ghosting's the best.
you in particular though, even when you get approached in real life, it gets real. Like it gets real weird.
Which
Like
one are you referring to?
oh, which ladies and gentlemen, note that she said which one am
Only
I
because I
referring
don't
to?
know what you're thinking, not because I get approached all the time, because I really don't. Like I
Ladies,
genuinely don't.
I'm referring to two specific stories that
Okay.
you've told me off the air.
Okay.
One involving a guy who I nicknamed after a very popular musical artist,
No. Oh my
and
God.
the other one who I nicknamed after I'm just gonna say I nicknamed him. I'm just gonna call him GD. I'm gonna call him GD.
No, no.
I'm gonna call him GD.
He's better he's higher up on the list now.
He's higher up on the list, and we're gonna get to that in a second.
I'm
But
currently processing that one.
we're gonna get to that one in a second.
God,
I'm
no.
gonna start with our musical artist. So
Yikers.
this gentleman is not actually a musical artist. He
No.
just clearly wants
You
to
want to dress like
emulate. He wanted to emulate the style of one. Um, for whatever reason, young Ashley here attracts this type of person who just wants to play the game of, oh, we're just going to eventually be together long enough that, oh, we're in a relationship and nobody had to say a word. And the point Ashley, I think, is making is that number one, if you are just looking for sex, just say that.
literally
Don't
just say it. Just say
it'll
it.
it'll weed you out of her dating pool,
Yes, quickly.
but but it's way better to be honest about that
I
than
don't want to waste
to
anybody's time either. Like if you're interested in that, like I'm not gonna sit here and condemn you for it, but like I don't want to waste your time, and I certainly don't want to waste my time. It's unfortunate because in general, like I do like getting to know people and actually being a friend with you. But in that particular instance, which I believe I know which one you're referring to, I was also that was the first guy that I don't want to say met, but just like I guess the first interaction, I guess I'd say after being out of a very long-term relationship. And so I was very new to um single life. And in general, I'm a person where it's like things don't have to be weird unless you make it weird. And I'm not going to assume something is going to happen just because this is what you're asking me. So like in my head, I was like, this is like nothing's happening. Um, but the further along things went, I was like, you know, didn't mind hanging out with him genuinely. Like it was like I thought we were friends, whatever. And there was a kind of a flirty vibe, but I wasn't really like thinking anything of it. And then things got a little jumbled, and I will own the fact that I definitely have had a couple situations where I probably sent some mixed signals completely by accident. So I will totally own that. I'm not saying I'm in any way perfect when it comes to these things, but I had
but
tried to explain afterwards, like, hey,
it highlights how messy modern dating
yes,
is
exactly.
when no one opens their mouth and just
Yeah,
says something.
yes, exactly.
And that's the messiness factor is the
Yeah.
factor that has creeped in
Yeah.
over time.
Yeah.
And that's
Missing the
where and that's both where the comedy of modern dating comes from,
Mhm.
right? Like, and that's like the stuff that you see on TV is the messiness factor of dating. New Girl does it great when Schmidt is dating both Cece and
Yeah.
Elizabeth at the same time,
Yeah.
and we watch Nick Miller try to process it in
Yeah.
real time, and it's just a great scene between the two actors where like the lines are written perfectly and they're delivered maybe even better than they're written. Um, and you see this, but you see that in real life. That's the comedy of it. We've seen those situations, not even involving someone cheating on someone. We've seen that situation just trying to get out the door and date someone.
Yeah.
So for the other part that, we're at, 26 minutes, which is delightful. And the other part I want to get to that extends the pickiness of your dating. It will also connect to our friend GD. Is
A tad.
your strong faith. Your
Yes.
strong faith. And when I say faith, I'm referring specifically to Christianity.
Yes.
If
My
you've listened to the
relationship.
podcast, yeah, if you listened to the podcast before, I'm saying this for the benefit of the audience.
Yes.
You've listened to the podcast before. I've talked, I've theologized, I've tried to pastor as best I can without the skill and of a pastor, but with my best efforts. And the other key in that is that it is very difficult for Christians to date
Oh my god.
in the modern world
It's so
because,
infuriating.
well, and it's hard, not just from a point of view of sorting people out, but from a point of view of many people profess who clearly don't.
Yes, that's a huge thing because at the end of the day, you can say that you are a Christian and not actually be acting like it, and that's a whole other situation because that's not how I am, and I don't wanna, like, label anything as religious because the second people have me labeled as, "Oh, she's super religious," like, you've immediately missed the mark, this is off.
But
So
Christ did say that many will come to me in the
yes,
end
yes,
who said, "Oh, I worked for you in life," and he will say, "I never knew you."
yeah, "Depart from me, I never knew you," yeah.
The, a lot of it comes from dating apps where somebody will put up Christian or they'll add in their bio on Instagram, Matthew, John 3:16 or whatever.
Yeah,
John 3:16 is popular out
it's popular
in
as
the
well.
country where our country princess over here lives. Um, and it's but that what makes it hard, especially for someone like you, is somebody who is so deeply rooted in their faith.
Yeah, definitely. Have found that, like, I think it was actually my first Hinge date that I ever went on, and I'm very open about my faith because I think the more open you are with it, the less it's, like,
The Shining Cross
weird
was not a
thing.
hint.
It's the Shining Cross, I had to represent, but I think the more you talk about it, the more people are like, "Oh, this is like a normal thing." Like, I don't want it to be considered something that's like me thinking I'm like holier than thou or high and mighty. Like, I'm not expecting whoever I'm with to be a pastor. I just want you to have your own relationship with God. And I don't know what that's necessarily going to look like for you because I'm not you, but like that's just important to me. And the thing is, people see that and think immediately that I'm expecting a slew of things that I'm very much not, or like just the world has kind of twisted things, especially to skew the view of that. And it makes it more difficult for me because then I'm trying to explain like to anybody really in depth without being like, how do I not come off so strongly? Because that's completely the opposite of what I want to do too. So it's just like, okay.
Well, and that's the game you're playing also, right? Like the one side of it that has to come off strongly is the fact of your faith. As far as I know you sit in your faith and you're not only not ashamed of it, you're just not going to let anybody, push back on it. And the way I mean that is like somebody saying like, no, but this is like totally fine. You're not going to say like, yeah, okay, fine. No, you're typically going to stay rooted in the
Yeah.
Bible and in the Word.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of people that doesn't work. It's just not they're not about it. And it's hard to see it in the dating world because really if you stuck to the general rules of Christian dating, it goes a lot easier.